Now, what you could see on the screen is a graph that will enable you to determine the theoretical number of stages. The ordinate in this graph, that is the value on the horizontal axis, is the ratio of the minimum number of stages represented by n sub m to n, where n is the theoretical number of stages. Your abscissa is r over r plus 1. So as discussed last meeting, this r is the reflux ratio, or specifically the external reflux ratio. But in most problems, it's just simply referred to as the reflux ratio. In order for you to determine the theoretical number of stages n, the n that you are seeing here, this one, there is a need for you to know three things. You need to know the minimum number of stages, the minimum reflux ratio, and the reflux ratio. Of the three, oftentimes, based on my experience, the reflux ratio is provided in the problem. So the problem specifies that, whereas the minimum reflux ratio and the minimum number of stages, you are to determine yourselves. So if, for example, you already know the reflux ratio and you know already the minimum reflux ratio, you ought to solve for this Rm over Rm plus 1, and you ought also to solve for R over R plus 1 and use this two as values for the R over R plus 1, that will be for the abscissa, and for the Rm over Rm plus 1, that would be for this curve. In cases wherein the ratio of R sub m to R sub m plus 1 is not the exact curve that you're seeing here, you are just to approximate the location of such a curve, because if you see, the distances between the curves are more or less equal. So you can approximate the location of such a value based on the curves that are shown. So you're going to project to the right the value of R over R plus 1 until you reaches the curve that whose value is equivalent to what you have determined, predetermined, that is. And from that, you go downwards to get the ratio of the minimum number of stages to the theoretical number of stages. Meaning this graph does not lead you directly to the theoretical number of stages, because there's still a need for you to determine the n minimum, or that's the minimum number of stages. How is this to be determined? That would be the topic in the succeeding slide. Where do you see this particular graph? This one has an equivalent in your handbook, but this one specifically was taken from Gian Kuplis for ease of having to snip it and share it with you this afternoon. But there is an equivalent of this found in your handbook. I leave that to you to find anyway. If there's a person that who knows her way through or his way through his handbook, that would be you, because that's the thing that you will be using later on in the board exam. So you find the equivalent of this graph in your handbook. So this is a correlation actually set by or determined by Erbar and Maddox. Now, in the next slide here, you are given the ratio of the theoretical number of stages in the enriching section, that's the N sub E, and the number of stages in the stripping section. This is a formula given by Gian Kuplis. In the formula, you have the W and the D, which I'm sure you know already, the amount of the bottoms, liquid, and the distillate, respectively, for W and D, whereas the X sub HF and the X sub LF refers to the mole fraction in the feed of the watt. The H is for the heavy component and L is for the lighter component. How would you know which of the components in your feed is the lighter component? Normally, and in my observation, it's usually the component which is lesser in value than the two. So I'm referring to the light component. So you take the mole fraction of that, and this one is the mole fraction of the heavy component in the feed. In the same way, you use the principle or the manner in which we represent the heavy component and the lightweight component in the feed in here. So what you need here in the numerator is the light mole fraction of the lightweight component in the bottom's liquid. This one is the mole fraction of the heavy component in the distillate. So the ratio of the two mole fractions will be squared and multiplied to the rest that you're seeing in this formula. Taking the inverse ln of the value that you have here on the right would lead you to the ratio of n sub e to n sub s. Now, we know for one that our distilling column has number of stages equal to the sum of these two. So in here, in this particular equation, you have a relationship between n sub e and n sub s. Okay? Now, another equation is needed for you to be able to specifically know the number of stages in the enriching section and in the stripping section. And that would be that n sub e plus n sub s is equal to n, which is the total number of stages. And as a reminder, the n that you're getting here, since this is already determined using this graph, you need not subtract 1 from it. Unlike if it's graphically determined n that you need to subtract 1 from it because the last stage is the reboiler. In the case here, whatever is the n, that would be the n, the actual theoretical number of stages for your distilling column. Okay? So n sub e plus n sub s is equal to the total n. So working on that equation and this one would lead you to knowing the number of stages in the enriching section and the number of stages in the stripping section. If you would be asked, and I have already emphasized this last meeting, where is the feed plate located? The feed plate is part of the stripping section. It's not mentioned in Genku place, but if you are having enough time to read, that could be read from, I think, McCabe. It's in McCabe that you can read that the stripping section is part of the, or rather the feed plate is part of the stripping section. So actually, these are the only two equations that you, actually the two things that you need to work on. That way you can find either the theoretical number of stages, the feed plate location, and the number of plates in your enriching section and in stripping section. So if you would be asked, knowing already the corresponding number of plates in the enriching section, you're going to add 1 to it. That would be the feed plate location. Okay, it's because your feed plate is the first plate in your stripping section. So if you have saw that n sub e is 10, then your feed plate is the 11th plate, which is part of the stripping section already. So in just one equation, together with the n sub e plus n sub s being equal to the total n, or that's simply the n, you can already answer 3 questions. And that's the stripping section, number of plates or trays; enriching section, number of plates or trays; and the location of the feed plate in this particular equation. So I hope you were able to get that. So if you're doing it graphical, or for example, you will simply be asked a question based on what is written on a graph and you are to interpret or extract information from the graph, then it would be even much easier, because in the graph you could see the the intersection of the two operating lines. So where the intersection is, that would be where you're going to cut, counting from 4, rather the number of stages of each of your sections for your distilling column. Now, to illustrate the use of, not specifically actually the use of this particular formula here that I have already shared with you, I will have a sample problem that will help you find the minimum number of stages and the minimum reflux ratio. Although if you have already enrolled in the previous class, you would know more or less how to determine the minimum reflux ratio, the minimum number of stages analytically based on what I have discussed. So I will discuss those as I discuss the problem, the sample problem. So please do pay attention. Okay. So in this particular sample problem, and by the way, this is the only sample problem that I have discussed here. So the rest of the sample problems actually is would just be a repetition of what is being shared in Jan Kuplis and McCabe. So I think you're more than mature and responsible enough to read it on your own. Anyway, everything in the solution could be readily understood the way presented by the two authors. So I will only be discussing this one, and you are to complement my discussion on what is available in John Kuplis and McCabe. So for this sample problem, you're given a distilling column receiving a feed that is 40 mole percent pentane and 60 mole percent hexane. Your feed is saturated liquid, and you know this, if it's saturated liquid, the Q is equal to 1 with a flow rate of 2,500 pound mole per hour. The column is operated at 1 atmosphere. A distillate of 60 mole percent pentane is required. So if you notice in terms of the concentration of our feed, you see that pentane is lesser than hexane. So of the two, pentane is the least volatile, is the more volatile. So it's the lightweight, so it's more volatile than hexane. Now, in terms of the number of carbon atoms, actually, if you have learned the principle of organic chemistry, this would really be the more volatile of the two, because this one have more carbon atoms than this one. Okay. Now, reflux ratio is a saturated liquid. Bottoms from the reboiler is 98 mole percent hexane. Determine the minimum number of equilibrium trace and the minimum reflux ratio. So in here, you are to find the N minimum, and in also the R minimum, the minimum reflux ratio. Okay. So now in determining the number of equilibrium trace, the minimum, that is, this particular problem provided you with a table that represents the corresponding compositions of pentane and hexane at a particular temperature. So it's listed on table 4.4-4, and the data were actually generated using MATLAB codes. Now, in the present times, they don't solve distillation problems using mano-mano. They use software for that, and what particular software that is mentioned here is the MATLAB code. I'd like to show to you that particular table which is being used to illustrate the relationship between X and Y. So as you can see here in the table, you have XY for a particular temperature value until you have XY here for a particular temperature value. This one is for a starting value of X and Y, concentration in the liquid phase, Y concentration in the gas phase at this temperature is 0. The table ends with the concentration of X and Y with a value of 1.0, meaning here your liquid is already saturated with A, it's 100% A. Here your vapor is also saturated with A, which is already 100% at this temperature. How you're going to use the values that are written in this table will be presented in the next slide. However, this table could also be plotted. An alternative form of presenting equilibrium relationship is for this X and Y values to be plotted and later on check that it's really, in terms of relationship, it's curved. It's not a linear relationship, but rather it's curved. So from that curve, you can get the corresponding value of XY ratio later on that you would be needing for your particular need in the problem or concern in the problem. Okay, so we'll go back to this table later. I'd like to proceed to the next part of the solution. Now, if you're going to do, and this is just a review, if you're going to determine the minimum number of stages graphically, it's the easiest thing to do. So what you do, you plot, as I've said, you plot X and Y, the X and Y here in the two columns. You plot it that way, you will have this curve. And on this curve, on the same graph rather, you will have to draw your 45-degree line. So this is your 45-degree line. Now, what you're going to do is plot or project upwards the concentration of the XD and the X sub W. So the problem, if we're going to go back to it, has 90% distillate and the bottom's liquid, which is 98% hexane. So meaning the pentane is only 2%. So take note, class, you have to be very, very careful. The concentration of the distillate here as given is really in terms of the lightweight component, which is pentane. Now you may have that particular, okay, it's so easy to, let's say, get confused that your XA for the bottom is 0.98 when it is not. Because if you look at it, the 98 mole percent is actually that of hexane. It's not of pentane. So you will commit the biggest error, and everything that you will be doing later on will be wrong if what you're going to plot is the 0.98 hexane. Because you may wonder why that you have your bottoms point on top of the distillate point if you're going to use hexane. So if I go back to the graph, you may wonder why your distillate is 0.9 and then your bottoms is here, 0.98. How could that be? It's because you haven't been very, very keen on the statement here that this 98% is hexane. So what you're going to plot is just the difference of this 98% from 100, and that should be the 0.2. So you could see here that your bottom's liquid is more or less, if this is 0.1, so your 0.2 is somewhere here, class, here. 0.5 here, you have here 0.5, so your 0.2 will be somewhere in here. Okay, so the 0.9 was already projected. This is just an approximation, by the way. And what you're going to do, you step up, you make a line, stair-like line, stepping off, starting from your distillate, which is 90%, until you go beyond or you're right on the 0.02. So if this is 0.1, the 0.02 is here. Okay, so this is not the exact graph, just an approximation of how will you determine the minimum number of stages. Determining the minimum number of stages does not require that you draw the operating lines and the feed line. So if you can see, you don't see any construction lines here except the 45-degree line. This is how you determine it using graphical approach. So you simply need the curve and the 45-degree line and the two concentrations, the XD and the X sub W, and then you can get the minimum number of stages using graphical approach. But this one will be only good if you're not working it on during the board exam. What if you are in the board exam? So there has to be another way of determining the minimum number of stages. So this is the one that I have mentioned to you a while ago. If you do it graphical, the answer will be 0.1 equilibrium trace. And by the way, the XB that is written here, which is 0.1, let me check. You could see that the bottoms from the reboiler is 98 mole percent hexane. So I need to have this edited. So this should be 0.02. Your bottoms liquid is 0.02. We subtract 0.98 from 100. So that has to be somewhere here. Okay? This is, you should, this is wrong. This has to be corrected. So please have it corrected. Anyway, this is how you do it. Now, if we determine the number of stages, the minimum that is analytically, you will need Finsky's equation. And this is Finsky's, sorry class. This is Finsky's equation. The log of xd over 1 minus xd. Wait class, there's something wrong with my window. What's the matter with this? Let me start sharing for now, and I will share again. Anyway, we have 10 minutes more. I'll stop sharing and I will share again. Okay, this one is Finsky's equation, as I have said. And in Finsky's equation, you need the XD and the XB. So this should be corrected for 0.02. This also will be corrected for 0.02. Uh, the problem with this, or probably you will be asking now, how do we determine the, what you call this? The relative volatility average. The relative volatility average is actually the geometric mean of the two relative volatilities. You take the product of the relative volatility of the distillate, multiply it with the relative volatility of the bottom's liquid, all in terms of the lightweight component, and you get the square root of such. That would be the geometric mean of the relative volatilities of the two sections of your column, the top section and the bottom section. The top representing the condenser and the bottom, that would be the reboiler. And that value should be substituted here. This Finsky's equation would have been easily used if not for this geometric mean of the relative volatility. So how do we determine the relative volatility? So in here, you go back to that particular table which I have shown to you, and in that particular table you don't actually have the given distillate concentration, which is 0.9, but what you have in the table is only 0.932. Though the relationship class is not really linear, so as you can see, if it's plotted, what you have is a graph. We would, to for simplification purposes and just for illustration purposes on how you're going to use the pair of XY data here, we would just consider that the zero point 0.9 that is given in the problem is more or less equal to 0.9032. Of course, it's not, they're not equal, but we would just approximate the two being equal. Now, for this particular value of y, which is 0.9, you're going to get an x value at equilibrium, which is 0.75. So we will look for a 0.9 here. This one, it's actually 0.90317, and the corresponding value for x, the pair would be this. So that's the value that you're going to reflect in determining the relative volatility later on in this equation here. The equation for relative volatilities have already been shared to you at the start of the topic on distillation. There's two ways of doing it. So please listen. You can use the XY pairing that was shown to you in the table if the table is provided by the problem, the one that was generated using the MATLAB codes. If the table is not given by the problem, you still have another alternative, and that is you use the pure vapor pressure ratio of the light component to the heavy component. What do I mean? So what's on the numerator is the pure vapor pressure of pentane. In the denominator, that would be the pure vapor pressure of hexane in the case of this problem. Now, where will you get that? That could be taken from section 2 of your handbook, the pure vapor pressures of common substances. Now, you need, however, you need in that case the temperature of the bottom and the top of the column, because when you get the pure vapor pressures, you should be given the temperature. Now, where will you get the temperature? Listen, because as I have read in books, it's not discussed. Where will you base the pure vapor pressures that you're going to substitute to the formula PA naught over PB naught to get alpha, which is your relative volatility? You're going to get the temperature on that temperature, boiling point temperature diagram. If you recall in our discussion at the start of the topic on distillation, you have the diagram which has two curves. The one which is for saturated liquid, that's below the bottom curve, and the one that is saturated vapor. If you know the composition of the lightweight component, and it has to be provided in the first place, it's always provided in the problem, you're going to use that diagram to get that temperature of the saturated liquid and the saturated vapor, And those temperatures you will use in determining the pure vapor pressure ratio. That way, you will have an alternative formula in determining these two. So again, I will repeat. Where will you get the temperature that you will use as a basis in reading the pure vapor pressures of the components of your phases in distillation? You will get it in section 2. The basis will be the temperature. Then if it is the temperature that is the basis, where will I get the temperature? The temperature should be taken in the equilibrium boiling point diagram, or shall I say boiling point temperature equilibrium diagram. It has two curves. I'm certain that I have presented it in first part. Go to the first part. It has a recorded discussion also, and you will be able to get there the temperature for the saturated liquid. That will be for the temperature of your bottoms liquid. The temperature of the saturated liquid together with the mole fraction of the light component in the bottoms liquid will help you find the pure vapor pressure. Actually, what you need is only the temperature, because it's not needed in the table in section 2 of your handbook as to the mole fraction. You only need the temperature. As for the temperature for the saturated vapor, that would be for the top of the column. You get it on the saturated vapor curve, the one on top. Okay, so you use the mole fraction of the distillate on the horizontal axis and then go up until you reach the upper portion of the curve, and then get the temperature that you will use in getting the pure vapor pressures of your component. Those are alternative equations that you can use in lieu of these two. So in here, if it's distillate, you get to see YN and XN being used. And if it's bottoms, it's X1 and Y1 that is being used. Where is this X1 and Y1 again taken? So if it's X1, in our case here, it's 0.02, by the way. It was approximated probably by myself to 0.1 so that it would be easy. But this one should be 0.02. Where will you get it? You go back to the table here. You find the 0.02. So actually, this one is the 0.02. Okay, the X, which is 0.02, the pair of that will be 0.12, this one. Although what was used in the problem is 0.1. But if you base it on 98% hexane, that would only be 2% pentane. So this should be the pairing that you will use. That way, you will be able to find the alpha B. These two were taken from that particular part of the table. If you have this two, then you get the geometric mean, and this is already your minimum number of stages. So if you have the minimum number of stages, I'd like to go back to that part here. If you are to determine the theoretical number of stages, you have it already in here. The next thing is the R sub M. So where will you get the R sub M? I will be cut. We will use the same link class to reconnect. That will be illustrated in part B, okay, of this problem. Okay, determining the minimum reflux ratio. Now, determining the minimum reflux ratio graphically will require that you plot your feed line. In this case, your feed line is a vertical line because your Q is 1. Why is your Q 1? Because you have a saturated liquid feed. What is this particular point? This is your X sub F, which is right on 0.4, because the composition of your feed in terms of the lightweight component is 0.4. What about this line? What is this? Actually, once you already know the intersection of the feed line on the curve, you don't need this because automatically